Good stuff. Well, will we feel that same way about Kate Bush and the Red Shoes? We shall see. So that is the next album we're covering. Kate Bush, the Red Shoes. In the opening montage, you heard, what did I pick? Rubber Band Girl. And now you're going to hear the Red Shoes.
And this curve is your smile, and this cross is your heart, and this line is your path. Oh, it's gonna be the way you always thought it would be.
Okay, Matt, what are the stats on this one?
So The Red Shoes by Kate Bush comes in at number 539 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 52 in 1993, number 3084 of all time. It's actually Kate Bush's 9th highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. She's got plenty of it. We've covered the Kick Inside, The Dreaming, and Hounds of Love, but also ahead of this include Ariel from 2005, The Sensual World from 1989, Never Forever from 1980, 50 Words for Snow in 2011, and Lionheart from 1978. So there you go. Kate Bush is, this is not, Red Shoes is not on Rolling Stone's list, and Kate Bush is ranked number 45 in overall artists rankings on Best Ever Albums.
Yeah, this album was released November 1st, 1993, and as you guys may have realized, this is our third decade covering Kate Bush, one of the few artists that's transcended 3 decades. We covered...
Hey, she's like the King Crimson of the 90s, right?
Yeah. We Kick Inside, we covered on Season 2, Bonus 18 in 1978. Season 3, Bonus 8, we covered 1982's The Dreaming. Season 3, Episode 16, we did the Hounds of Love from 1985, and then we covered a single off the Sensual World recently, Season 4, Episode 6, the single Love and Anger. So
I think... I was just going to say, I think Neil Young's the only guy we've done in all 4 decades so far, but we're going to do the Rolling Stones soon, too. So that'll be the only 2 I can think of that were all 4 decades.
Yeah, we'll see if Kate Bush comes back in the 2000s. She does go on a hiatus after this album, so we'll see if Matt said that some of the more recent albums are highly ranked, so she can make a return. But she was born, and John, I think, did the bios on some of those Hounds of Love and stuff. Maybe I did. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure John did. Anyway, Kate Bush was born Catherine Bush in Bexley Heath, Kent, England in 1958. This is her 7th studio album and her last album before a 12-year hiatus. She has 10 studio albums. Her most recent is the live album from 2016, Before the Dawn. Genres include art pop, baroque pop, art rock, college rock, and a bunch of other subgenres. Influences, really, a lot of literary influences, art, movies, and comedy. Also, David Bowie, Pink Floyd, Joni Mitchell, Genesis, the Beatles. Artists she influenced, pretty much everyone has name-checked Kate Bush. She is beloved by musicians and artists everywhere. The highest-rated Billboard song is "Running Up That Hill, Deal with God." It reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, in part because in 2022 with Stranger Things, they played it again. That actually bumped it up higher than when it was initially released in 1985. Hounds of Love reached 12 on the Billboard 200 in 2022 as well, so the album also got the bump. This album was inspired by the 1948 film The Red Shoes by Powell and Pressburger, which was in turn inspired by the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. A short film called The Line, the Cross, and the Curve accompanied the release of this album, which essentially is an extended music video. It was direct to video, and it features 6 songs from the album, music videos of those with the overarching Red Shoes story. I did watch it. It's on YouTube. Somebody uploaded it. It's interesting. I wouldn't say it added much to me, but it's interesting seeing Kate Bush, in music videos and at that point in her life. She herself said she was not happy with the release of the short film. So later, she had thought about going on tour for this album as well, but that ended up not materializing. she recorded her tracks live with less studio production than her previous 3 albums. So she, with kind of the idea that she might go on tour with it. The album was originally recorded digitally, and she expressed regrets about that. And as a result, she revisited 7 of the songs using analog tape from her 2011 album Director's Cut, and then she released a remastered version in 2011 of this album based on the master of an analog backup tape. I did listen to the remaster. I don't think, at least on Amazon, you could listen to the older version, so I don't know what the difference would be, but that's interesting. She suffered a series of bereavements at this time, including the loss of her mother, who died in 1992, and the death of her one of her guitarists, Alan Murphy. She also had a long-term relationship end with bassist Del Palmer, although they continued to work together after the fact. And after the release of this album, she really dropped out of the public eye. She had intended to just take a year off, but then she was working on material the whole time, but she just ended up taking 12 years off instead, as one does with their life. The press often compared her to Miss Havisham from Great Expectations during this time period as like a recluse.
About right, yeah.
In 1998, she gave birth to her son Albert, who's nicknamed Birdie, during this hiatus. And in 2013, she became the only female artist to have top 5 albums in the UK charts in 5 successive decades. So that's interesting. She also has she received the Commander of the Order of the British Empire, the CBE award, that was given to her in 2013. And most recently, in May of 2022, Running Up the Hill played on Stranger Things, which became the most streamed song on Spotify, re-entered the Hot 100, and reaching those new peaks with the single and the album that I talked about previously. And she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023 after being nominated 3 times in 2018, 2021, and 2022. So Kate Bush, I think we all have expressed our love for Kate Bush in the previous albums. So what did you guys think of the Red Shoes? Let's start with Matt this time.
So I think I was very taken aback by the first song as soon as it came out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, wow,
Girl.
Okay. So she's going, this is way poppier and catchier. Like, you know, the Kate Bush that we've covered up until this point, I wouldn't have categorized her as being like a major, you know, this is a big pop song with a big dance hook or beat to it. And that's how she starts off with Rubber Band Girl. So, and it's great. It's like, okay, this is going to be maybe a different ride here. So taken aback a little bit there. I wouldn't say, and certainly the whole record's not like that, but there's some other songs that are kind of in that realm. You know, goes and then to And So Is Love, which is, actually, no, I'm sorry, Eat the Music, which is kind of like, all right, now we're doing world music. You know, this is kind of like the influences of the Peter Gabriels and Paul Simons of the world are definitely making their way into Kate Bush's, you know, and other, you know, maybe acts that were doing similar things. But I liked that as well. You know, Red Shoes, she's going back. She did a little bit of the Irish, you know, kind of the folky, you know, stuff. I think we heard some of that in her previous work as well, but that kind of makes a comeback here. You know, I'm just looking at the ones that are more upbeat. Constellation of the Heart, that seemed like an 80s song. Like, that seemed a little bit, it's like, wow, that's a little retro, like, definitely got like an 80s synth pop vibe. Not in a bad way. It's just that's kind of what you were getting there. But then you've also got like kind of the more dramatic Kate Bush, you know, with, you know, the Song of Solomon or, you know, Top of the City, kind of like these ballads where I would say it kind of a little bit more in line with some of her previous work, you know, but mixes in well here. You know, I kind of like the way that this record was put together. The variety of the songs and kind of how it jumped from one thing to the next, so it kind of kept you on your toes a little bit. Track 11, I was kind of thinking initially, man, this sounds like that's another interesting one. This sounds like Prince, and sure enough, it looks like Prince co-arranged the song. I'm just seeing that here now, so it's like you can hear Prince on "Why Should I Love You." That song actually stands out maybe more so than any song on this record because it just, it seems a little out of
just
place.
see Prince sitting at home being like, I got to work with Kate Bush. You know what I mean? At some point, like, I got the perfect thing for you, Kate. I call you. Yeah.
Him and Big Boy, right?
Yeah.
So in a really interesting record, I kind of was, I think I had settled in the lane with Kate Bush is like this avant-garde, artist who's kind of challenging you and, doing these weird theatrical kind of things and, these sound effects and whatnot, non-traditional kind of stuff. And this is probably the most traditional that I can recall, of Kate Bush. And certainly I don't remember hearing songs like this in her previous records that we've covered. And I like it. This is another example of, it's nice to have an artist like this that can just say, you know what, we're going to do some full-blown pop songs on here, unapologetically, right? And just and have it be really freaking good. So it just, again, it shows that she has that ability, that she can do that if she wants to, and but she also didn't feel the need to totally make the album like that, right? That she could still kind of throw in some of the ballads, the more kind of more melancholy type songs as well. And again, it all flows together. So yeah, it's very clear. Just you don't have to listen to too much Kate Bush to understand how impressive she is in her talent in all capacities. Like the fact that she just not sings and writes, but also produces. She's just an artist, if you will. And but I also think that she's got plenty for just the casual listener, the casual music fan to hang their hat on, because it's not like she's totally alienating you with just a bunch of weird stuff for the sake of being weird. No, man, she's got she's got way more chops than just that. And so yeah, still continue to be impressed. And thumbs up for sure on this one.
Yeah, I call her accessible avant-garde, Matt, because I don't know if avant-garde fits because she does too much stuff that resides in mainstream music. Yeah. It's just that the biggest thing with Kate Bush, as you see on this album, is she hits you from so many different directions, because in many ways you have to process her as a performance artist, because she said that she sings as her characters on these songs and creates characters, and that's what this is too. It's sort of thematic, like you said, the movie. It's sort of seems like it could be one protagonist, like heroine, but not in the way that it's like a linear story she's telling. It could be like a series of sketches or a series of characters in the same stage of life. Like it could be just as much that. You also, Kate Bush kind of like unknowable, because I think your natural thought with the singer is you're getting who she is through the music, or there's even with the people like Bob Dylan who are like, I don't write his stuff. It's like, well, of course there's pieces of you in it, right? Or even when you're telling sketches. But with Kate Bush, you really don't know. Like, what is like the fantasy world she lives in. And in that way, she's sort of like Bjork, in that you're never 1,000% sure what sounds she's taking in, what things are fantasy and whimsy, what things have autobiographical pieces to them, and vice versa. You never feel like you have a 100% idea of like what's influencing Kate Bush either, because this album's like a roller coaster of stuff. Rubber Band Girl sounds like a mid-80s pop song,
almost like Madonna
so it's like
something.
It's like she's like, Kate Bush is sort of like, okay, at two different times on this, number 1 and number 11, Why Should I Love You, the Prince song, she's like, okay, I've decided that I'm going to take a swing at two different types of 80s pop music, but I'm going to do it in 1993. Like, it's sort of like, okay, they're great, but like they just sound so funny in the context of 1993. And then you have the orchestral songs that Matt said are the ones that remind him of Kate Bush. I think maybe that's because some of those are the ones that have been the big hits at different times. But Kate Bush always has more accessible songs, or even songs that are more like ambient in nature. There's world music comes out of note. You're like, whoa, that's an interesting choice right there at number 3. It's probably a little bit better world music than I would think. And then there's like another sort of spin on that big, it's not quite world music, but big chorusy type feel of Constellation of the Heart, which feels like it could be like and we know her connection to Peter Gabriel, but I got real Peter Gabriel vibes from that, and the Red Shoes autobiographical. And so you're listening to this and you can't help but think thematically, but you're like, no, this is just, I think of it as like a book of short stories. And it's funny that the last album we did, 14 songs, was like Paul Westerberg trying to replicate a series of short stories too, like sketches, because I feel like that's really what this is, both lyrically and thematically. It's just 12 individual stories, and that's really what I appreciate about Kate Bush. And I think it's also why she sort of is evergreen, because she does not belong to any specific era. Right. She belongs to like music in general. And yeah, like I said, she's kind of like Bjork that way, but she's also, even though they don't sound a lot alike, she's also kind of like somebody like Iggy Pop, that you can't quite place like where the hell he is from. He's not the 60s, he's kind of the 70s. Like, he reinvented himself in the 80s and early 90s. You know, he reinvents himself so often that with different sounds, and you know, he can be punk rock, he can be dance, he can be, you know, pop. It's all these different things, and he's like a chameleon in some ways, and that's kind of how, you know, Kate Bush is. Yep. But with the added thing of performance art. So while I didn't like this one quite as much as her peaks, right, most notably her first album and Hounds of Love, although I loved all three of them in many ways, in different ways, I do think you know, I know this
was Dreaming like was great too.
Oh yeah, but I think See the Dream is probably my favorite of all of them. It's funny that I pulled the other two, because I think that was my favorite of the three we covered. And if you go back and check the receipts, I think what I would say too.
Yeah, I think it is mine too.
Yeah. And you know, this one I know is a polarizing album, but you know, listened in the context of 2024, I don't really get why. Yeah. Because it fits perfectly into her discography along the way.
People didn't really like Eat the Music for some reason. That kept coming up when
that specific track.
Yeah, like
I mean, that's probably my least favorite song. That's probably my least favorite song on this album, because I have a particular aversion to like world music filtered through Westerners, kind of like. But I didn't hate it as much as some of the other world music we've done. So, and it certainly is not obtrusive enough. It's there, but it doesn't ruin the album or anything.
Yeah. No, I'm with you guys. Kate Bush always like keeps me on my toes, and I feel like with this album, especially, like you said, Matt, I was really thrown off by Rubber Band Girl, but immediately liked it, and pretty much from track to track, she switches directions or does something different that is not like the previous song. So, but it all works thematically, and the album as a whole coheres. So she just has that ability to seemingly do anything and craft, pull all these references and influences and mold them together into her songs. And I really like that. The second track, And So Is Love, that there was like kind of an 80s like sound throughout this entire album on that song as well. That features guitar by Eric Clapton, which you guys may or may not have known. Jeff Beck apparently collaborated on that song as well. And so, she's pulling in other famous musicians. I agree. The Eat the Music, African Calypso sounds, Paul Simon-esque song. I didn't mind it. I thought it worked for what it was, and I even like kind of the title track, The Red Shoes, a lot. She throws in like a whistle sound, and the way she repeats Yahoo like throughout, that really got me. Constellation of the Heart, I thought was really interesting lyrically, because she's singing and then the backing singers are responding to her, like they're in her head, or like some sort of like call and response in a really interesting way.
I liked it as a concept better than as a song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I had ever heard that done before in that way. It's she's like having a conversation. It just really grabbed me from the jump once I heard what she was doing. And then even songs like Big Stripey Lie and Why Should I Love You, which again I thought, well, this sounds like a Prince song, and then after the fact learned that Prince was on there. So that was great as well. I don't know. I love the variety that she gives, and how every album of hers is different than the previous one. Like, you can't compare this one to, The Dreaming or Hounds of Love or The Kick Inside, because they're just all different, but they're all like, quintessentially Kate Bush, and that's what I love about her. So thumbs up for me, for sure.
Yeah.